Welcome, everyone. If I can have your attention just for a couple of minutes, we'll get started. And thank you all for being here on a beautiful day to celebrate this ribbon cutting for the John Newcombe Estates and Country Club. I'd like to thank our host, the John Newcombe's Enterprises, and all the things they do. They're going to tell you a little bit more about it in a moment, but as most of you know, they've been a good corporate citizen and part of New Braunfels for more than 40 years. I'd like to thank our Blue Coats for being here, our Chamber ambassadors. They support all things our Chamber does, and they'll definitely help get the word out, gentlemen, about all the neat things you're doing out here. We've got some pretty good tennis players here today. First, we have the club manager, Scott McCulloch. Scott is the manager and a tennis professional, and certainly a good player and can help all of you that are tennis players if you need a little lesson. We also have Mr. John Newcombe here, which we're going to introduce in just a moment. And I was preparing my remarks to how I was going to introduce Mr. Newcombe. He's a pretty accomplished player and business person. But it occurred to me that Jeremy Fieldson, who has known Mr. Newcombe for probably 40 years, might be the better at that. And all of you know Jeremy. He's the manager and president of the Tennis Ranch, which this kind of springs from. So, Jeremy, I think you can do this a little better than I.
Thanks, Larry. Okay, and let me first mention Don, our partner as well in our venture here, who runs Cliff Drysdale Tennis, and we've formed a great partnership with Don. So thanks for that, Don. Yeah, I'd like to thank all of you for turning out. It's great to have you all here, and when we said we were going to do this, Don and I wanted to put on, beer and whiskey and stuff, but Larry said, no, we don't do that at 11:30. Well, I'm sorry about that. It would have been a lot more festive if Don and I had been able to do what we wanted to do. It's my privilege to be able to introduce John Newcombe to you. Many of you know him, but John came to New Braunfels over 40 years ago in 1967, when he was the #1 tennis player in the world. To talk about his tennis career, he won 26 Grand Slam championships, second only to Roy Emerson in the men's game, who won 28, so he was right there. He won 9 Wimbledon championships, including 3 singles. He won 2 US Open singles championships, and he won 2 Australian Open championships. He was also a Davis Cup player for Australia and played on the winning teams for Australia. Later on in his career, he came back and served as the captain of the Davis Cup team, and Australia were really nowhere in the world of tennis, and within a few years, he and his longtime doubles partner, Tony Roach, had produced a championship team, and they ended up losing in the finals of the Davis Cup to Spain, and then winning it the next year, beating France. And during that time, he took Pat Rafter from number 80 in the world, and he ended up winning 2 US Open titles championships. So certainly Mr. Newcombe is the gold standard for any tennis player out there. But more important than that, and I've had the privilege of getting to know him over the years, and I think this is the greatest compliment you can pay him. You will not find a nicer person in the world than John Newcombe, who really cares about people and is interested in people, and if anyone had any cause to be a little bit big-headed and arrogant, that would be John Newcombe, and yet he would be the furthest from that.
Except on the golf course.
That's a good point, Don. But over the years, John has he bought the Tennis Ranch, and he's put an immense amount of time and effort back into the game, which he loved so much. He's also served as president of the Australian Tennis Federation. He's done all sorts of organisations there to help the game in Australia, and I can't think of a better person to be a partner with and to know than John Newcombe. So can we have a very big hand for Mr. John?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Jeremy. You got your pay rises coming. Well, it's certainly been a long adventure. I came here first in beginning of February 1968. Two guys that I got to know over the previous 3 years, Jack Turpin from Dallas and Clarence Mabry from San Antonio, were aware that I'd been married for 2 years and was aware that I was going to be spending more and more time in the United States, so I was looking for a home away from home. And Clarence contacted me and said, hey, Jack and I are going to buy this rundown dude ranch in New Braunfels, and it might be something that could interest you. Well, there were no tennis courts there, and for those of you who can remember the old dude ranch, which had about 16 horses, it was pretty run down. And Angie and I came and had a look around, and she felt right at home because she's German, or she was German. When we got here and when she went into the kitchen, everyone was speaking German. So she was actually treated like a queen because she was like directly from Germany. And the kitchen staff used to ask her, you know, well, what's the German word for avocado? Because, of course, when the immigrants came over many, many years ago, there were no avocados. So there was a number of words like that, and it was quite good fun. And anyway, we had a look, and we thought, wow, this would be terrific. We certainly didn't want to go to the East Coast, and we certainly didn't want to go to the West Coast, especially to raise a family. And New Braunfels, Texas, to us, just looked like a fantastic place to raise a family and have a home away from home. Sydney is our home. So for the next 12 years, while the kids grew up, our 3 kids, we had our first kid in 1968, 8 months after we were here, and then a boy and then 2 girls, and they went to the local schools in New Braunfels, and Clint especially has still a lot of friends when he can't wait to get back here and catch up with some of his wild mates from New Braunfels. He just had his first child himself, a boy, a week ago.
Yeah.
Thank you. So he's already working with his wife on how he can get away next year and get over here. So that's where it all started. And in the 70s, we, myself and Clarence, we bought the operating part of the ranch from T-Bar M, and that's why you had for about 4 years you had T-Bar M, and then you had T-Bar M, and then the John Newcombe Tennis Ranch, and we developed it from there. Over the years, we were able to buy some land adjoining the ranch, and not really knowing what we were going to do with that, but my thought was eventually maybe a golf course. And as we got into the 90s and we looked more and more into that, I thought I'm not real keen on having a lot of sleepless nights. So we sort of let that idea go. About 5 years ago, Don Henderson over here with Drysdale Tennis, Don came and talked to us, and Don used to run our adult program at the ranch for a number of years, and then he branched out and went to Florida, and they created Cliff Drysdale Tennis, and they operate about 15 clubs around the country. They're doing very, very well. So they came in with another partner they brought in, and with the land we had, they put in some cash, and we started this adventure. So you have an idea when you start something like this. You've got 200 acres of land. You know, what do you do with it? Do you just cut down all the trees and get in as many houses as you can? No, I didn't want to do that. I've been involved with a large development company in Australia that do things like planning for 50,000 people to live. And when I got involved with them, they were using me in the 90s as their marketing tool, and they asked me if I would head up their marketing campaign as far as advertising and marketing. I said, well, I've got to see what you do before I can agree to that. And when I went there, I saw that they were like halfway through the project, and already the ponds had been put in, the parks had been put in, everything was done. They planted lots of trees, and they really had created a fantastic community. Unbelievable ideas that I hadn't seen before, where they had 4 schools, but all the schools were in a big circle, and they had a great theatre and playing grounds, and the schools all combined to use the same facilities. So they had fantastic facilities, and they just organised it amongst themselves how to do it. So I said, I want something like that. I want to be able to leave behind here a community, a feeling of community, and a project that is done so well that when you come back in 10 years' time, I can drive through and I can say, I'm pretty proud of what we left behind here. And I think if those of you who have driven through the estates over there, you'll see that what we've done and what we've accomplished is we're pretty much on track for being able to do that. And then we had a big decision, because we said, you know, we were going to build this country club, and it wasn't cheap, and we could have waited, you know, until we sold more and more lots. We said no, we're going to go out and we're going to do this now. And I'm talking, you know, a couple of $1 million to be able to create this whole facility here. So we said no, we're going to go out and do it, because that's what we said we're going to do. And you have an image when this is all started. And when I came back in August and it was completed, I had been here in March for 3 weeks and we were building it. And so in August when I came back and I saw it, and I thought, wow, that's exactly the picture that I had in my mind. And friends that have come in to visit and have looked at it have just said, well, you guys have done a fantastic job. So we're pretty proud of this. We're very proud of the estates. We're very proud of what we've been doing over at the ranch for 40 years. I can't tell you how many kids, well, I mean, how many kids would have gone through our camps and that from all over the country. Gosh, if you add that up over the years, you'd be getting into hundreds of thousands of kids that have visited New Braunfels and gone through our camps, and people that have come back year after year after year. We just finished Fantasy Week, which is where I bring 11 other legends in, and we have 8, it's the guys only, sorry girls, and we have about 80 guys that come in, and they spend 6 days here working with the legends, and we just finished our 24th year doing that. So you can see, you get from the picture, I'm not a short-term guy. It's longevity with me. My wife's put up with me now for about 46 years. So I'm really proud. I'm very proud of being Australian. Sydney, I think, is the greatest city in the world, but I think the second greatest city in the world is New Braunfels.
There you go.
Yeah. Larry, I want to, thank you and everybody for making the effort to come out here, and how we take it is it's your way of just recognising what we're doing in the community. And I wanted to make that little speech and sort of explain it to you, to know that we really feel part of New Braunfels, and I can tell you we are spreading the name of New Braunfels all around the world, because people come from all over the world to visit us here, and they just love it when they're here. They say what a wonderful, wonderful city it is.